What's going on, everybody? It's your boy ScowlingAl here from the Podunk Punks, and today I wanted to talk about that Gillette ad that's been making its rounds lately. Chances are you've seen it, or at least heard about it, and maybe you have a friend who is absolutely in love with the commercial, and maybe you have another friend who absolutely hates the commercial. But regardless of where you stand, I wanted to talk about why people on both sides of the political spectrum should be a little wary of giving too much attention to that ad. So, we know that there's been a lot of backlash against it, and we know why the negative reactionary group of people are responding negatively to it. They're generally the social conservatives that throw a hissy fit whenever society seems to adopt or creep towards more liberal, accepting, inclusive aesthetics. The toxic masculinity they were raised on and developed their personalities from is finally being scrutinized, so this kind of forced introspection that our blossoming postmodern society necessitates or imposes doesn't really sit well with some people. It shakes them to their core. It makes their sudden change defense mechanisms go fucking bonkers. What has shaped the way they think is being judged, and the verdict is now negative. So they're doing what they can to justify standing still and keeping with tradition in an effort to pull back against the constantly blowing winds of change that has, in the past decade or two, let's be real, accelerated into more of a tornado of change. Everything's happening at such a fast rate with the amount of modern interconnectedness that it's ripping the rugs out from large groups of people, and in this instance, it's the social conservatives. But enough about them. Let's get to why the left should be wary of ads like Gillette's. First and foremost, we have to recognize what any kind of product advertisement like this is meant to do. It's meant to entice you to buy a product. If it's good for business, they will do it. If it's something that'll hurt the business, they won't do it. Maybe they'll do something that'll hurt them initially, but they kind of see the beginnings of a societal shift happening to where if they can bear the brunt of the backlash at the onset, their brand might have a secure place to sit once all the dust clears afterward. It's literally, the name of the game is to plan the best course for the longevity of your brand, which gets us to the main fucking point. A business's tie to any ideology is only as deep as the piles of money they project to receive for backing said ideology. In other words, they don't give a shit about you or your movement, they just want to capitalize off it. At least a lot of the major brands, anyway. So, is it a good thing that society appears to be adopting more liberal, accepting, inclusive aesthetics? Well, first, what is society? What shapes the way a society or culture thinks? Generally, the media they consume plays a very large role in that, and in our heavily hyper-capitalistic culture, the media consists mostly of advertisements or people pushing some brand or product. And when they're not overtly pushing a brand, they'll try to sneak it in somehow. They'll try to find any way possible to imprint their brand into your head. I actually just found out about this effort that's been made since about 1993, I believe, of putting giant fucking Mylar billboards in space for advertisements. Just imagine that. Imagine having an existential crisis and not even being able to stare into the fucking void of space for just a small moment of introspection without a goddamn KFC ad zooming past the star cluster you're trying to zone out into. Imagine being woke to the aspect of capitalistic alienation and superficiality in advertising and just how small the world is to all the companies raping the shit out of every square inch of the planet and having to peer out into the vast infinity of the universe just to shake off that claustrophobic feeling, and right when you look up to do just that, you're met with another constant barrage of more fucking ads. We already have barely a universe of stars to gaze into with all the light pollution from cities blurring our view, and now they just want to turn what we have left into just another television screen for advertisements. It really is looking more and more like that Black Mirror episode where the guy just wakes up and his life is just 360, 24/7, just ads everywhere. But anyway, let's get back to the main question at hand. Is it a good thing that brands are reflecting more liberal, accepting aesthetics in their advertising? I would say yes, with some caveats. Getting past toxic masculinity in our culture is very important, and having ads that reflect that is a good thing. Media and advertisements change the way society thinks. They help normalize things, and the first company to try to normalize an aspect of a major paradigm shift like the one we're going through now is sure to get the brunt of the attack from old heads who just want to keep shit the same. But society shapes ads just as much as ads shape society. Advertisers only care about what's current and popular. Right now, there's a new anti-toxic masculinity movement that's gaining in popularity, and so that's one new wave that advertisers are trying to ride. Does it turn out that this particular wave that they're riding just so happens to be a culturally positive one? Yes, but remember, it doesn't matter what color the wave comes in. It just matters that the big companies can ride it. Like, if this were any other time period, the Gillette ad would be backing toxic masculinity because that's what would be popular. It would be like, some people think shaving is for women. Well, tell that to this well-groomed man who's fucking your wife right now. Or, don't let your son grow a vagina. Raise them with Gillette. So, Gillette's riding a good wave right now, and that's fine. You can buy their razors and support their company knowing that, at least for right now, they're putting on a positive front. But the thing to keep in mind is that your little feel-good microtransaction is what they're feeding off of. They want you to feel like going to their product actually does something. They're essentially making money off of lazy people who want to call themselves activists who actually do nothing more than what the average drooling, insipid, hypnotized capitalist consumer does that buys literally any other product. That is, pulling out a credit card and swiping it. So again, is it good that more progressive views are being displayed through advertisements? Well, if on a scale where we have 50s toxic masculinity and anti-feminism on one side, and you have an inclusive, multicultural, socially equal utopia on the other, this would be like a 0.00001% increment towards the social utopia end. It's hardly worth batting an eye at in the grand scale of things, but it's a start. If a social utopia castle is what we're building, this would be like standing on an empty foundation and laying down one small wall panel made of glass. It's like, it's nice, it's a step towards keeping the cold wind from hitting us, but it's still just glass, and we have to constantly watch and monitor it. It really shouldn't be held in high regard as fortification, and we ought to be seeking some slightly better materials to actually build something to stand the test of time. If that analogy doesn't do it for you, what I'm saying is that, yes, it's a nice gesture in the right direction, but it's like getting a kid who just had the funnest time of their lives giving some other kid a swirly in the toilet to say they're sorry to him. It's superficial. We have to make sure the kid stays on track. We still have to change the school to make it a less swirly, fostering environment. But it's the first minuscule bit of change that has to happen, even if it seems insincere. So, in short, stay woke to what companies are trying to do when they put out ads that back any social movement. Don't let them make you into their brainwashed pawn by thinking you'll save the world by only buying their product. Don't think they actually have any investment in whatever ideology they're claiming to support unless they have one hell of a charity organization going on. Realize they don't give a shit about you, only their projection of profits for the next quarter. And for the love of God, don't be just what I call a credit card activist. Yeah, put your money where your mouth is and all, but realize that nothing will truly be ethically where you want it under capitalism. You know, you feel great supporting a company with a cuddly commercial you really like, but chances are what you just bought in the name of feminism or anti-toxic masculinity causes damage on some other front. There's always some place that these companies go to so that they can get extremely cheap labor. In most cases, it's Asia or somewhere in South America. In Gillette's case, it's China, Brazil, Mexico, and Poland. So don't let major businesses or corporations steal from you out of your good intentions. Don't fall into the buy our perfectly ethical, moral products so you can be as perfectly ethical and moral as us and we can just have a big, perfectly ethical and moral circle jerk between the two of us trap. If you want to buy a product, that's fine. But praxis, people, praxis. What do you think will have more of an impact on society? Teaching your kids as they grow up to not be snot-nosed brats and to be accepting and inclusive towards other people of all backgrounds, or sitting your kid down in front of a 1-minute TV advertisement about what they shave with some random voice among the other millions of random voices telling them what is and what should be? No. Anyone over the age of 15 isn't going to have their mind changed by a 30-second or 1-minute commercial, and anyone under the age of 15 doesn't give a shit about commercials either way, and rightfully so. Like, a commercial to a 15-year-old about anything is just an obstacle they have to sit through before their show comes back on. And a commercial for people over 15 is just something to either be indifferent to, outraged by, or like, You're outraged that there is an outrage. And the outrage and outrage of outrage is truly what the brands depend on. This cacophony of squawking back and forth about their product until it's in everyone's head and on everyone's tongue. That's called brand recognition. Good or bad, their product ends up in the spotlight for the masses to squabble over until some faction or ideological party eventually considers it their product, and that group then becomes the brand's new target demographic to sell to. So if you want change, if you want feminism or anti-toxic masculinity, change is always just one generation away. It all lies in teaching your kids properly. And yes, while the media we consume has an effect on our culture, we as people, actual people, not people inside a TV box or people on a podcast, but real people making real experiences in the physical world outside the media are the biggest forces of change. Putting your hand on someone's shoulder and talking with them about your views will have an infinitely deeper impact on them than if they heard roughly the same thing from some fuck-ass news pundit or commercial personality or whatever. Media is an important and pervasive phenomenon that we definitely need to scrutinize and keep improving, but as the true arbiters of change in society, we each individually need to be scrutinizing and improving ourselves in the way we teach children, so that way they can think critically about what they're seeing as opposed to literally just being sold the popular ideology of the time. You know that big corporations don't have your kids' best interests at heart, but you know that you do. So if you want to do some real activism, put down your credit card, get off Gillette's website or marketing page on Amazon or whatever, and go have a talk with a kid that you know about why it's good to be inclusive and why it's bad to be a dick to women. I'm ScowlingAl, this is the Podunk Punks, and I'm out.